Gert Sellheim was a German-Australian artist. He was talented in architecture, graphic design and photo montage. But today, we will be focused on his graphic design career, which produced travel posters for Australian National Travel Association, ANTA, during 1930s to 1950s. We will confine to an in-depth discussion about what kind of the effects that his artwork have brought about towards the Australia tourism industry advancement among the Australia history, and what were the aims of ANTA for the industry at that century as compared with one of the contemporary Australian tourism campaigns, Undiscovered Australia. In addition, the film also discussed the similarities and differences between the aim of Gert Sellheim's artworks with that of the campaign. Gert was born in Estonia with German descent in 1901 and he passed away in 1970. He practiced his classical architecture knowledge, Bauhaus and Art Deco in Berlin, Munich, Graz, Vienna, and Paris. Due to the economic downturn in Germany after the Great Depression, he decided to migrate to Australia. He then arrived in Perth, Australia in 1926. As he faced the problem of language boundary, his architectural qualification was not approved immediately. He then worked as a farm labourer to earn for his living expenses. He was really inspired by the image of this young, dynamic and modernisation country. During 1930s to 1940s, his was at the peak of his career. In 1930, he relocated to Melbourne and officially started his career there. He started to collaborate with other famous ANTA travel posters designers, which included Percy Tromp, James Northfield and later Douglas Annand, etc. Gert Sellheim then began working with the publisher Oswald Ziegler, who had carved out a place in commemorative, regional, and industrial publications in 1936. Due to the similar background and age, they soon became lifelong friends during the process. The first book of Gert, Why Not Victoria, was published the same year. In 1938, he created a photo montage mural for the Victorian Government Tourist Bureau at 272 Collins. He was also the first artist who used a large amount of the elements of Australia Aboriginal imagery in his travel posters. Most of his artworks were well recognized by the community. His travel posters continued to promote a dynamic, advance and modernization image for Australia towards international recognition by adopting creative and special elements which can uniquely and significantly represent Australia. The period between the 1930s and 1940s was regarded as the golden age of travel posters. During this period, most countries had just recovered from the Great Depression. The global economy was growing rapidly. They started to develop and boost their economics and market sectors both locally and internationally. Consequently, the booming economics created high demands and innovative advertisements. The Australian government identified tourist business as a kind of a merit of Australia and aimed to establish Australia's international image by attracting tourists, and subsequent capital inflows would bring stimulation to the Australia economy. Travel posters were widely used to serve the marketing purpose. Posters created in this period emphasized on building a vibrant, dynamic and energetic image to explore the unknown advancement potentials of Australia. Those representative destinations, unique cultural identity, flora and fauna in Australia were largely considered as the main focus elements or symbols in poster designs. Gert Sellheim's travel posters were impressive and highly regarded among the artists in that era, as he talentedly blended the distinctive Aboriginal cultural identity with the modernist principle in his poster designs. His skills were well illustrated in the following two examples. In the first poster, The Seaside Calls, Go by Train, take a Kodak designed in 1938 for the Victoria Railway. We can see that he promoted Australia beach culture, most popular modern lifestyle in Australia during 1930s, by designing a lady dived into sea of simplified geometrical waves, which matched with the simplicity of form of the modernist design principles. Another travel poster created by Gert in 1930s for ANTA, he used a lot of significant Aboriginal imagery elements in this poster. The boomerang icon placed at the center of poster. The symbols on the boomerang also highlighted the Australia beach culture, and symbols in the blue fading background were some exclusive flora and fauna in Australia. These robust elements were tightly intertwined with the theme of this poster, Australia, which was lying on composite diagonal across the boomerang. Gert also used basic primary colors of blue, yellow and red in this design. Gert's design turned into a meaningful trend which continuously bringing a significant impact to today's contemporary Australia tourism campaign. In one of the campaigns that Tourism Australia held in 2018 called Undiscovered Australia aimed to challenge the typical stereotypes of Australia in the international tourism industry by unveiling the unique Aboriginal cultures and the undiscovered travel destinations to overseas tourists. This aim displayed a similarity part between Gert Sellheim and this contemporary campaign. During 20th century period, most of the émigré artists started showing interest in exploring the Aboriginal culture as Gert Sellheim. Gert Sellheim identified the uniqueness of Indigenous Australian cultures and boldly adopted it to be a spotlight to promote Australia to the travel sector. He respected and embraced the Aboriginal culture and introduced it as motifs in his projects with his deep insight in the culture. For example, Figure 4. Corroboree by Gert Sellheim, 1935. Color lithograph. There were 4 Aboriginal dancers lined up in a diagonal composition through this poster. Gert Sellheim designed this travel poster using the elements of Aboriginal body painting art with Art Deco incorporation. Same with the Undiscovered Australia campaign. Tourism Australia promoted the Aboriginal culture as a part of campaign called Explore Australia's Outback. As example, Figure 3. Explore Australia's Outback. Tourism Australia. This image captured the Aboriginal people and the significant Aboriginal body painting art. The poster designs inspired visitors to journey through Aboriginal history and have a deeper understanding of the history and customs of the Aboriginal people. As such, both Gert Sellheim and Tourism Australia promoted Aboriginal culture aggressively and regarded it as a precious treasure of Australia, the world's oldest living culture. As times developed and moved towards 21st century, we can identify some differences between Gert Sellheim and contemporary campaign from 3 aspects. Firstly, the target markets in the 2 different eras. In the 1930s, ANTA aimed at the British and American tourist markets due to the dominant economic roles in the world. However, ANTA shifted the target market to Southeast Asia in 2018, included India, Malaysia, Singapore etc. in recognition of the rising economy spending power. Secondly, distinctive core values. The economy had just undergoing the recovery stage from the Great Depression. Artists in this period took effort to create progressive, nationhood and modernization image for this young nation. Most of the travel posters used well-known hard sell characteristic destinations or symbolic creatures of Australia to attract tourist attentions. For example, Gert's posters named Great Barrier Reef, Queensland, produced in 1930s, used tropical exotic fishes lined in diagonal composition as his design focus. However, since 2018, Australia has already achieved an international recognition and established a strong tourist base and income sources. Now, ANTA encountered a new challenge to break through hard sell promotions. Instead of marketing those "familiar stereotype of Australia from foreign tourist impression," ANTA boldly shifted the marketing efforts to exploring the potential undiscovered destinations, activities, and new modern lifestyle in Australia. For instance, this image taken from the Tourism Australia portal, a hot air balloon image. Although beach culture was the most popular and modern lifestyle since 1930s in Australia, but now Australia promoted different challenging activities, and hot air balloon is another good choice for tourists to visit. Thirdly, difference in marketing strategies. Photo montage. Travel posters were the core tools for advertisement, as these handful materials can be mass printed and pasted on walls, railway stations or other prominent and crowded places. Due to the technological advancement, different kinds of online platforms such as websites, social media, digital posters have been invented to allow the information to spread widely and promptly. In conclusion, Gert Sellheim was a pioneer who used the Aboriginal cultural imagery as motifs in his majority posters. His innovative design and the key insights in his artworks brought a radical influence to both the 1930s and contemporary artists in 21st century.